Hopefully I pronounced that correctly. Thank you.
Hello. Hi everyone, my name is Simon. I'm a first year allergy fellow at SUNY Downstate Medical Center in New York City. I'm going to be talking about the protective effects of IgE and eosinophil counts in the National Health and Nutrition Examination Survey. We amassed years 2005 to 2016 for the purposes of these analyses. And this study was, as such, a collaboration between the College of Medicine and the School of Public Health. So all of the authors are affiliated either with the College of Medicine, the Department of Medicine and Division of Allergy and Immunology, and the Department of Epidemiology at the School of Public Health. We have no relevant conflicts of interest to declare. We did not seek or obtain funding for the purpose of this study. Because of the nature of the data, this study was IRB exempt. All of the data was available online. So I'll give you a little bit of background again about the impetus for this study. We were really interested in examining the association between two public health relevant conditions. We wanted to see if there was an epidemiologic relationship between both of them. The two things that we looked at were Atopy and cancer, and for Atopy we looked at two biomarkers, IgE and eosinophil counts. This was limited by what was available online in the literature and in the data. So IgE and eosinophil counts were the only biomarkers available. Our hypothesis at first was based on our findings from NHIS data, which is the National Health Introduce Survey. We actually found asthma and hay fever previously to be protective in relation to prevalent cancer. And both of them were significantly protective, conferring odds ratio reduction of about 40%. So we wanted to use a new database to now analyze the same sort of relationship. There is, at present, very few studies that look at IgE and eosinophil counts in relation to cancer, particularly using national data. So what we know so far, as allergists, we know that Atopy stems from a heightened response of T helper 2 cells, Th2 cells, and they secrete a certain type of interleukins, such as interleukin 4 and 13, and this stimulates the production of allergen-specific IgE. We hypothesized that it could produce tumor-specific IgE. Although this was difficult to prove with the data, that was our initial hypothesis, that it would have a role in tumor immunity. Also, eosinophils have been studied in the past to have antibody-dependent cytotoxic properties. So the purpose of this study as such was to examine the associations between serum eosinophil counts and IgE levels on physician-diagnosed cancer using secondary data, the National Health and Nutrition Examination Surveys between the years 2005 and 2016, so that's 11 years of data. Our epidemiologic exposures were the eosinophil counts and the serum IgE levels. Our outcome of interest was cancer occurrence of any type as diagnosed by a physician, and confounders as identified from the literature, including age, sex, race, body mass index. We actually used obesity, smoking status, and insurance status. This is kind of the what we call in epidemiology a directed acyclical graph. So we realized that with the nature of this data, we can't really prove a causal association, but we wanted to say the exposure and the outcome were temporally separated. So our exposure of interest was Atopy, and our outcome of interest was cancer, and we hypothesized that the confounders might have a mediating effect on both of these factors. And the negative sign in the middle, that's to say that we hypothesized that the association is protective. So the methods used for this study, just a little bit of introduction to the NHANES. It's a biannual survey. It's conducted every 2 years. It's considered one of the most nationally representative surveys conducted by the CDC in conjunction with the NHIS. It uses complex probability sampling methods, and it oversamples minorities in participants underserved areas. So the results of data analysis from surveys such as these can be taken to be generally nationally representative. And the advantage of the NHANES over the NHANES is that it has IgE and eosinophil count data, so that's why we chose the NHANES. For the purpose of this study, we could include 60,936 adults. All of them were aged over 20 years old because the medical conditions questionnaire was not administered in children. And because we wanted the lab information, we recruited patients from the mobile examination center and dataset. Obviously, we excluded patients that had a history of blood cancer or blood dyscrasias because that might screw up the eosinophil count analyses, and we didn't really want that to happen. As far as the statistical analyses go, we conducted first we looked at the data, we looked at the distribution, and we conducted bivariate analyses between all of our confounders, that is age, sex, race, obesity, smoking status in relation to cancer. We also conducted normality checks for all of the continuous variables. We had to log transform IgE for use in the regression models. We also, because we wanted to do chi-square tests between IgE and eosinophil counts in cancer so we could represent it in a clean 2x2 format, we had to categorize it based on clinical cutoffs. We also conducted nested multivariate regression models for the same relationships above. And not yet done, but to be done in the future, are stratification based on the most prevalent cancer types. All of these analyses were in SAS 2024. So I'd like to draw your attention to the bolded numbers. This is the 2x2 tables for the relationship between cancer and both low and high IgE levels categorized clinically and low and high eosinophils. So if you can see right here, the prevalence of cancer was almost 3 times higher in those that had low IgE. And in high IgE, it was about a third. And this was a significant difference. We found a similar relationship between eosinophils and cancer, but the degree of protection was much greater. It was almost 30 times. You can see 48 versus 1571. And the difference in numbers here overall are because the eosinophil counts were available in every year of the survey, but the IgE levels were only available between 2005 and 2006. As far as regression results go, I'm just presenting the fully adjusted models. You can find that high IgE was negatively associated with cancer, and this was after covariate adjustment. It led to a protective effect of 0.73. In other words, the odds of cancer development dropped 27% after adjustment in high IgE or higher IgE levels. Eosinophil counts, on the other hand, had a much more modest effect, but it was significant. The odds ratio here was marginally significant, but eosinophil counts truly conferred protection, but it was more modest. The odds ratio for cancer development in those that had high eosinophil counts compared to low was only 6% reduced. So we tried to think about why this might be, and really there's a lot of theories as to why. In developed nations, there's less microbiota, and the hygiene hypothesis basically, because people were exposed to less environmental allergens, they develop more allergens to things that are in the environment, and that causes an altered immune threshold, and that leads to decreased cancer levels. There's also proposed to be a heightened immune surveillance state in patients in developed countries, and particularly in patients that have atopy. So your body's baseline primed to react with cancer cells and prevent them from spreading, basically. And there have been some reports in the past, but they've been limited by the types of cancers. There's only been a few studies that have been done in overall cancer. Pancreatic cancer and brain cancers were 2 solid organ tumors that were protected against in high IgE. And that's because of multiple cytokine release because of eosinophils and IgE levels in the area. Granzyme B, tumor necrosis factor alpha, and eosinophil cationic protein are supposed to be certain cellular products that confer tumor immunity. So wrapping up, the strengths of this study, this truly is the first study to the author's knowledge that examined the trend of atopy in relation to cancer using atopic biomarkers. The results can be considered nationally representative because it's weighted data, it's like a national survey. Recall bias is unlikely because we used objective markers of atopy as our exposures of interest, and our primary outcome of interest was physician-diagnosed cancer. The results of this study are limited by residual confounding. We really couldn't examine cancer-specific risk factors such as, pickle consumption for gastric cancer or hormone replacement therapy for ovarian cancer, for instance, or we really couldn't look at chemotherapy or any other sort of cancer-modifying treatments because that was not available. And additionally, survival or survivorship bias might have affected the results. Because in order to be included in the study, they might have survived their cancer for X, Y, Z number of years in order to be included in the study, and that might falsely only include highly immune or strong subjects. Future directions would have to examine, future studies would have to examine this relationship prospectively and look at the development of incident cancer as opposed to prevalent cancer. So in conclusion, using a large national database, higher eosinophil counts and Ig levels were significantly negatively associated with overall cancer diagnoses. The results of these findings suggest that there are some IgE-mediated eosinophil responses that might be important in the body's defense against tumor immunity and cancer cells.
So I have a concern because you said, and if you go back a slide, you say that next one forward. No, second one. Yeah. So you said high Ig was negatively associated with cancer, yet your confidence interval crosses 1.
Yes. So it's marginally significant. It was not significantly associated.
It's marginal.
It was close to 0.05.
Okay. Well, then, but you said on your last slide, you said significantly different. So that's not really true. Number one. So there you go. Higher eosinophil counts and Ig was significantly negative.
So eosinophil counts were significantly negative.
Okay, but the Ig was not, right?
But the Ig was not.
So the other question is there was concern initially about omalizumab and possible cancer signal. So what are your thoughts now?
I believe the Excel study sort of precluded.
Right, but you're saying that higher IgE is protected potentially, but if you use omalizumab, then obviously you're getting rid of that. So what are your thoughts about that?
We did think about this when we first thought of studying this association. We couldn't really say with certainty because each cancer is protected in a different way, and Ig acts on different cancers in a different way. What we do know from the literature is that solid organ tumors are protected more against compared to blood tumors or subcutaneous tissue tumors because of the protection of certain types of there's other things other than IgE, which we couldn't examine in this study that might have caused tumor immunity. That's why we examined eosinophils and IgE together, because of the impact of antibiotic and cytotoxicity and all the cytokines that eosinophils can produce.
Hi, I've got a question about the eosinophil data as well. Could you go back to the chi-squared table?
Sure.
So, if I look at the bottom table, it looks like you've got 46,000 patients with high eosinophils and 4,000 with normal eosinophils. Isn't that the wrong way around?
Yeah.
I'm just confused.
Yes.
The data looks wrong,
Yes.
and it would suggest it's the other way around, is that low eosinophils
Yes, my
are
apologies.
protected.
The categories were reversed. So 2471 would be high eosinophil count, and 45902 would be the low. Because there were a much smaller number of people across the board, both with cancer and both without cancer, that had higher eosinophil counts.
So if the top row is high eosinophils, that means about 40% of your high eosinophil patients had cancer, and almost none of your low eosinophils had cancer. So isn't your conclusion the wrong way around?
No. I believe it was the prevalence of cancer in subjects that had low versus high And the prevalence of cancer in those that had lower, the prevalence of those without cancer or being cancer-free in those with and without, with those with low and versus high eosinophil counts. So the way the data reads, even if you reverse the categories, it's a significant difference in those that had high eosinophil counts. There's a lower prevalence of cancer.
I'm completely confused. I don't know what number goes in which cell. Sorry.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. We're going to move on to the next speaker just in the interest of time.